Hey, we're doing a Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover. He's Booney. I'm Sully. No last names needed.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans. Hello, Locked On MLB fans. Hey, it's good to be back in the old house for a day. And welcome to a Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover. This is the podcast where we talk about your Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas. Let's just split the difference and call them your Philadelphia A's every single day, and Locked On MLB. I am the Locked On MLB, former Locked On A's host, Paul Francis Sullivan, but by all means, call me Sully. You'll notice there's someone here. If you're a Locked On A's fans, you know him well. If you're a Locked On MLB fan, this is your intro to him. Mr. Booney, introduce yourself to the Locked On MLB crowd.
Sully, thanks it's finally nice to connect with you, and excited to speak a little baseball with you, a little A's.
And that was your cue to introduce yourself. That's Booney of Locked On A's, the new host. For those of you remember, I was the interim host, kind of the way that Bud Selig was the interim commissioner. I took over for a week, did the season. But now I've had more than one person ask me, why aren't you still doing Locked On A's anymore? Because you do 10 podcasts a week. I don't feel like doing it anymore. I needed to get some sleep. And you're in great hands with Booney. Booney, who's been you've been an A's fan forever.
Since 1981.
A really good, by the way, a really good year to become an A's fan. One of the most fun A's years ever, the Billy Ball year.
The Billy Ball year, Ricky Henderson with the stolen base record when he was number 35.
Right.
Matt Kehoe, I didn't understand why he never won a Cy Young. And Chris Cotteroli and all those guys. But it was an exciting team. The Billy Ball brand was an exciting way to go about things. And I've loved the A's ever since.
Yeah, and they had Tony Armas was on that team. Dwayne Murphy was on that team. Jeff Newman. Norris was pitching on that team. A smattering of former A's would show up from time to time. Sure. Were loyal to Billy Martin. But he basically just a few years after the team strip mined the championship club, they were back in the ALCS. It's even back then you could rebuild faster than people thought.
Do you remember that year they had the first half season and then the second half season? And I believe I want to say it was the Cardinals had the best record in all of baseball and didn't get in the playoffs.
The Cardinals had the best record in the NL East, but the Reds had the best record in baseball.
Right.
They had won more games than any team, but they finished a half game out in the first half, and then they finished like a game or so out in the second half. So Los Angeles and Houston were the two playoff teams, and the Reds had the best record. They're the outside looking in. The NLCS, if you just went by the records, would have been Cardinals Reds, and neither the Cardinals nor the Reds were in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
That was the lone championship for the Garvey, Say, Russell, Lopes, Rick Monday, Dusty Baker, Fernando. Fernando was on 88, but he was hurt. But like that, all those classic Dodger players won their only title on a year where they should not have been in the playoffs. But This is not a Dodger podcast. This is an A's podcast. And it's an A's podcast that is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, Booney, we can wax nostalgic, saying, "Oh, where are the Carney Lansfords and the Mike Gallegos of the world?" But let's talk a little bit about some of the news that happened over this week, and that was one of the reasons why they kind of lit a fire under our collective butts to get this crossover here. I had been saying during my time when I was hosting Locked On A's, I was in full "I'll believe it when I see it" mode on all things A's, because consider me burnt after over a decade and a half of it's Laney College, it's Jack London Square, it's San Jose, it's Fremont, it's Howard Terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, forgive me, you've cried. Ironically, they've cried wolf, and the Fisher has cried wolf, and so now obviously the Sacramento situation is insane, that they're going to play in a minor league stadium with a minor league team, mind you. And I went there over the summer on a day game. Yikes. The new schedule's been released, and apparently there's only 6 games that will be unbearable during the day there. That's 6 too many, but we'll get to that in a minute. And thank God they're not going to have the artificial turf. I can't believe that was even considered for a nanosecond. But still, they've knocked down the hotel. They were going to knock that down anyway. That wasn't being knocked down for the A's. There was someone who wrote to the Locked On A's thing. It was Michael F6705 said, Vegas did not blow up a casino and go to construct a multi-billion stadium without being locked in stone already. That's not how you do business. Someone doesn't know Vegas. They blow up stuff and build up stuff every hour on the hour. The Tropicana was coming down anyway. It wasn't like, oh my God, the Tropicana is here, but we got to knock it down for the A's. If the A's don't come there, something else will. But the Tropicana was coming down anyway. So there is virtually no connection between the two. Sorry, Michael F6705, to spoil your day. But, Booney, let's go over the news of what happened, because I've been saying he wasn't Fisher, FJF. Fisher was never putting the money up for an A's stadium, even though this whole thing could have been solved. He could have built the stadium in the A's in the Coliseum parking lot, and the A's would be there for generations. But he didn't want to spend his own money. He wanted to sell off, a quarter of the team with a $2 billion evaluation, which would have got him laughed off a Shark Tank. And that didn't work. And now he's saying, I'm going to pay for it myself. All right, Booney, tell me your thoughts on this, and how much of this should we believe?
Initially, I put out an episode on Thursday, and my initial thoughts was that Vegas was not going to happen. The reason I based that opinion was on 2 factors. Now, we knew the public funding of $350 million was coming. That was already a given. $300 million coming from banking or a lender with no banks or lenders announced was odd to me.
Yeah.
The $850 million, okay, that was another big deal. There is no doubt that Fisher and the Fisher family is worth beyond that amount. And he has the capability, if he wanted, to pay for it. But Fisher is not liquid, okay? He is not going to liquidate a portion of his holdings in order to do that, because that would come at a significant cost to him. He wasn't going to do it, and that's why he was shopping it. He was looking for investors at a minority share of $500 million. Why that amount? We have a stadium that is worth, a franchise that is worth $1.2 billion. Okay? In order to get the $850 million, he would have to pay a flip tax, right? They would have to be a flip tax, because anything over 50%, you're sharing your majority share of the team. All right. So he had to stay below that. That means he needed a valuation of $1.7 billion minimum.
Minimum. And who came up with that evaluation?
Correct. Absolutely no one. I mean, it just
you see these people come on Shark Tank with their lemonade stands that they evaluated $1.8 million. Correct. You know, that's what I just kept seeing, Robert and Mr. Wonderful going like, where are you getting these numbers from?
So that was the news that came out Thursday. I said, there's no way it's going to happen. And I broke it down step for step on why I did not think it was happen. New news came out the next day, of course, which completely, for me, changed the game. And I reverted to a completely opposite take. And here's the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Two lenders were announced, U.S. Bank and Goldman Sachs. Now, in my career, what I did before was lending. I did it on the residential side. I partnered with commercial individuals. I worked directly for U.S. Bank. Towards the end of my career, now, I wasn't involved in a project side like that, but I was involved in the commercial end of things. And for somebody to go through that process and get a commitment, they are serious. That is a long process. It is extremely difficult. And the bank, you can bet your butt, they do their due diligence.
They have to. They're a bank.
100%. The conditions they're asking for the most part, are, as Sandy Dean said, normal. They're not, doesn't look like they're out of the ordinary. But at the same time, the A's aren't clear. The second announcement, which was big, was the Fisher family was going to invest the $1 billion. What's that tell me? Was that I was right about my initial assessment. John Fisher has the funds, but was not willing to liquidate his own funds in order to pay for it. Secondly, he could not find outside investors. That's why he brought in the family. And with the family, there is enough cash in there if they need to put down the $1 billion, in my opinion.
And when we come back, we're going to break that down a little bit and why everything you're saying makes sense. But there's still a modicum of skepticism from my part, not in anything that you're saying, but in the opening of the wallet. Hey, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back. Say that 3 times fast in bonus bets, making it worse for my alliteration if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch and a munch a bunch in the middle of a game, live reads, folks, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right. It's the Booney and Sully hour here. It's not going to last an hour. Don't worry. Again, there's a part of me that is crying wolf here a little bit. Yes, you're not going to be able to get to the point where they're currently at without due diligence from a bank. Banks are not sports fans. Banks don't care about Raleigh fingers. Banks don't care about anything other than banks. That's why they are banks. But one thing I have seen, as a lot of billionaires are getting their face in the press these days and everything like that, I swear I'm not going to get political. I have detected that one thing billionaires seem to have in common is not spending their own money. And if the Fishers wanted to take $1 billion tomatoes out of their checking account or liquidate, I understand it's not sitting in their available balance to use with a debit card. That they would have to liquidate stuff and put, they're not sitting around with $1 billion in cash sitting in their back pocket. But in order to get to that point, loosening the proverbial pocketbook strings is something that billionaires tend not to do. And if they were willing to do that, there'd be a stadium in Oakland right now. If they were willing to do that, they'd be in Howard Terminal or the parking lot of the Oakland Coliseum. So this is a moment where I'm completely like, I get what's being said, and the officials are admitting that, all right, we could probably do this ourselves, but I'm still skeptical that they're actually going to do it.
What does Vegas have that Oakland does not?
They have some money.
The key thing is for Fisher in Vegas and the stadium is he doesn't care how many fans he draws. The corporate sponsorship alone is going to make him a mint. The affluent fans and clients that will come to Oakland in the suites and spend the money is a gold mine for Fisher. It's been a gold mine for the Raiders. The Raiders aren't at the top of the league, the NFL, with regard to attendance, but in revenue they are. Vegas is an absolute gold mine with regard to corporate sponsorship. Secondly, MLB and the Fisher ownership, when it started back with Leo Wolf, have been trying to get the A's out of Oakland for a very long time. You know that as well as I do. And all these proposed stadiums, Howard Terminal, Fremont, San Jose, East Oakland, all smoke and mirrors. None of it was real. They wanted to make it as difficult for the city of Oakland as possible, so the city of Oakland would say, hey, we can't do it, and they can go to MLB, hey, the city of Oakland's not working with us. The Fisher ownership alienated the fans so bad where they can now go to MLB and say, hey, no fans. And at the end of the day, is MLB a participant in this absolute corruption? 100%. With that being said, our commissioner is making what? $17.5 million a year. That does not include what's been reported as a $7.5 million bonus. $25 million a year he's making, Sully. He works for the owners. He's the voice of the owners. The world is not fair. If I was in Manfred's seat, you know what? If the owners told me to take the A's to Timbuktu at $25 million a year, they're going to Timbuktu. So that is all it's about, man. This country and everything about is founded on one thing, greed. And that's what MLB is. Is this a level playing field? No. Is it fair? Absolutely not. But here we are. And has Oakland gotten absolutely screwed in this whole deal?
100%.
100%.
100%. And part now the gold mine that Finley thought he was getting by moving the team to Oakland back in the late 1960s, with him offering the team to anyone within creation, a point has been made, and I have said that the Bay Area, at least in the late 60s, may not have been big enough or not have had enough staying power to support two teams. And my whole life, one of the teams have been trying to move. Giants tried to move in the late 70s and the late 80s.
Yeah.
The A's tried to move in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today it's like a contemporary rock station. I don't want anyone to confuse this with me suddenly becoming a fisherman. I have been very, very clear that I think what he did to turn the narrative, like you just said, to make it create the appearance that there was no fan base there by raising ticket prices, pushing players out, having the stadium crumble. It got to the point when they got 8,000 fans, that showed how great the fan base was, that 8,000 people actually showed up. And to then say, oh, well, look, there's no money to be made here. Of course there's money to be made in the Bay Area. Of course there's money to be made in Silicon Valley. For God's sakes, it's flowing in it. And for a pure baseball standpoint, I think Las Vegas is a Venn diagram, as for a fan base, a Venn diagram of the worst place to put a team. You have transplanted fans who are primarily Dodger fans. Baseball requires 80 some odd home games and the commitment of a fan base, of a local fan base who really only cares about the local team. I live here in LA County. Everyone's been going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over the Dodgers. I even went to a screening last night at a Revival House of the film Starship Troopers at a revival house. I want to show my son Starship Troopers. I love that movie. And at the intro of the film, the curator said, "Hey, let's go Dodgers." Everyone is excited off the wazoo. Previous year, Arizona, Texas. Try starting a conversation with anybody about the World Series. Unless you were in Phoenix or in Dallas, good luck. You're not going to be able to do it. Baseball interest is local. And I can't help but wonder, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Booney, but I can't help but wonder if that gold mine of the corporate boxes and everything like that is going to be a mirage in the desert after the first couple of years. You're certainly going to have crap attendance. There's going to be crap attendance because if it's a Tuesday afternoon, the A's are playing team, the attendance is not going to be there. And we know that's not the issue. But will the corporate sponsorship be enough to justify, even when they're, again, I wanted the A's to stay in Oakland. I couldn't make that any clearer. But if they had to move, there are other markets that seem like we're 1,000 times better. And will baseball is not football. Baseball's popularity is not football. Football's popularity is national. Baseball's popularity is local. And if you're appealing to trying to get a local fan base, you're not going to get it. Sorry, Vegas. I mean, they're great fans out there. They supported the Golden Knights, but that was an expansion team that was theirs. They were the first one in there, and they've been good. So I first of all will believe the officials spend the money when I see it, but I also think that once the initial wave of excitement is over with the A's, there was excitement over the freaking pirate ship in Las Vegas, and they eventually knocked that down.
The other thing Vegas has that nothing in the rest of the world has is, I believe I saw the latest statistic or number, I could be off on this, 44 million tourist visitors a year. If the A's just get a tiny bit of that piece. I agree with you on the attendance. And I don't think they are banking or making the decision on going to Vegas based on filling up a stadium. Absolutely not.
No.
And I agree with you 100%. Can this whole thing fall apart? If history has told us anything, it would. Is that if someone had to ask me now, today, how do I feel about Vegas? I would say, yes, it's going to happen. Could that change? Sure.
All right. Well, we come back. We're going to talk about the forgotten city, the undecided voter of the A's situation, and the only place we both know for sure the A's are going to play. Have we forgotten about Sacramento? Hey, Booney, I don't know if you know this, but I went to Game 6 of the NLCS at Dodger Stadium. And do you know what I used to get my tickets?
What's
See if
that?
you can guess. I used Game Time.
Wow.
And now I was going to use Game Time to get tickets for Game 6 of the World Series at Dodger Stadium, but Garrett Cole forgot how to cover first base. But you could use it for all sorts of things. Game Time is more than just being the best place to get baseball tickets. Do you want to go to an NBA game? If you want to go to concerts, comedy, shows, that's where to go. Game Time Picks is what you should use, by the way. It filters out all the fluff, and we've had enough fluff. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You get seat views. I had a seat view there. You get, when I got my Dodger tickets, get a panoramic view from the seats in the app before you buy, and it's got the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you could get a better deal. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Maybe you weren't listening. Let me repeat this. Terms apply. Create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Hey, Booney, what time is it?
Game time.
Am I the only person when I spell out the things on that I'm humming the theme to Method of Modern Love by Hall & Oates. I very well could be. I can't sing it because we don't have the ASCAP rights. All right. It's the Booney and Sully show. They could be going. I'll say this. Because of the money, the allure that's sitting there, and the fact that they want to build the stadium. And I'll say this. I think the stadium looks awesome. I think the stadium looks great.
Yeah.
And the best way they can make it a tourist attraction is to have that sort of brand new experience, kind of like when Camden Yards opened. People went to go to Camden Yards even when the Orioles sucked because people wanted the experience of going that. This is the opposite. This is a futuristic, weird stadium, kind of like the Sphere, that becomes part of a tourist attraction there. Because if it's a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon and the A's are playing the White Sox, I don't care how many, you could have 5 quadrillion tourists coming through Vegas that day. Now I'm seeing Penn and Teller that night.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's not the issue.
Yeah.
But we do know they're playing in Sacktown. And look, again, I have to put these qualifiers on. I was there for the final game. I wanted the A's to stay there, all that. So I don't think I did show after show where I stated my case there. So I don't want anyone to think I'm backtracking here. I've gained a lot of respect for Sacramento fans who have raised their head like proverbial prairie dogs the nanosecond it was announced they were going to be coming over there, even if it was for a temporary situation. What are the chances, especially if Fisher is reluctant to dip into his own account, that Vivek and company will want to buy the team and make them a Sacramento team? And with this one caveat, I will say Major League Baseball is coming to Vegas. That, I think, is a fact.
100%.
So whether it's an expansion, whether it's the A's, watch it be the Rays. But let's by the way, the Rays need to find a new home too. And I do love that someone said the city of Oakland could do the funniest thing in the world, and we have the Oakland Rays next year.
Right.
But what do you think is even the remote possibility that they park themselves in Sacktown, and especially because this is the stadium is not going to be built in 2 or 3 years. It's going to take a long time to build this stadium because not a shovel is going on the ground yard. They don't have enough money to build it yet. What do you think the chances are of them being embraced by Sacramento and Vivek spending his dough and getting a stadium built right there in West Sacramento, where I think they could thrive?
From a fan's point of view, I want them to be in Sacramento. Obviously, first and foremost, I would like them to be in Oakland.
Right.
But I think Major League Baseball...
That ship has sailed. That ship has sailed.
Yes.
That ship has sailed.
I think they will be in Sacramento. Now, you have 2 issues with regards to... And let's say Vegas falls apart, which it still...
Very well could. It's still on the table.
Right. Absolutely. If that happens... and Fisher decides he wants to sell, there's one big issue is the flip tax is selling the franchise, right? That's going to cost around $300 million. Okay. So whoever he sells to is going to have deep pockets and pay a premium for that. And at the same time, is MLB going to work with whoever's going to buy the franchise on that? Maybe. I mean, they work with them on the relocation fee. Who knows what who knows what they have up their sleeve? There's 2 individuals that have those type of pockets. I don't think Vivek would do it on its own. If it does happen, I think it would be a Vivek and Lacob partnership. Vivek was an investor in the Warriors when Lacob originally bought it. They have both wanted baseball teams. I think if they put a baseball team in Sacramento, they are first-class owners who will spend on the team.
Yes.
The stadium will be state-of-the-art, just like the Golden One Center is and like Chase Center is. I think there'll be developments around the arena. They would do it right. Sacramento doesn't have another major league franchise there except for the Kings.
Right.
I think it would be unbelievable if Sacramento got the A's. And I do think it is a possibility. Back in April, when Vivek when the announcement first came that the A's were going to go to Sacramento, it
Mm-hmm.
was reported that a lot of inside individuals said that Vivek believed Vegas would fall apart. Him and Fisher have a relationship. If that does happen and Fisher says, hey, I've had enough of this, I overplayed my hand, I thought I was going to be able to get investors, we don't want to come out of pocket $1 billion. The cost is too much. I'm just done with this. I think it's going to go to Vivek, and I think it's going to go to Lacob, and I think a stadium will be built in Sacramento, and I think that will be very, very exciting. They will not be scared to spend money. The chances, one thing we know about the A's, Sully, is we don't know. So,
Right.
Who knows? But I would like it very much.
Yeah, there's two things I think as I said, we've established there will be a Major League Baseball team in Las Vegas. They are going to build a stadium will be built, and if it's a stadium that's in the design, I love it. I love it. I've said, and this is going to be a later episode of Locked On MLB, I've talked about this back in May. A lot of teams would have a lot easier paths to finding solution if we started going back to multi-purpose stadiums.
Yes,
and
100%.
If the huge expensive stadium they built for the Raiders could also have been configured for baseball, there would be the Las Vegas A's now. And as I said in the episode I did back in May, the main reason people are wary of multi-purpose stadiums is because everyone saw how huge a hit Camden Yards was when they opened in 1992, and people didn't like the cookie-cutter parks made in the 70s. Well, guess what, folks? A lot of ugly things were made in the 70s, and maybe, just maybe, we could do it better than that. And I think that the city that builds a multi-purpose stadium, which makes economic sense instead of several billion-dollar palaces, one empty while the other is filled, is insane. I love that they're trying to build two huge stadiums in Chicago. Build a stadium where the White Sox and Bears can share. If they did that in Las Vegas and built a stadium that could also be reconfigured for baseball as well as football, again, a lot of this mess would not have happened. Again, my heart would have been broken, and I'd be wearing my last dive bar pin at the final game at Oakland like I did. But there wouldn't be this fiasco happening in Sacramento. And I was wondering, are they going to be there for 3 to 5 to 6 to 7 years? So
you have a fourth-year option. They could easily be there for 4, yeah.
I think could be there permanently for all we know.
100%.
But I do think that that's a reality. I do think at one point, and this is just my prediction, and I've been wrong about my predictions. Remember, I picked the Yankees in 6.
Me and you both.
I think at one point Fisher's going to look in the mirror and say, do I really want to part with $1 billion of my money? And
it's his family's money, yeah.
Yeah, his family's money. Do I really want to do that? Or could I sell this team, throw an extra $1 billion in my coffers, and get the hell out of this? And it's obvious he wants to not spend his own money. He couldn't possibly make that any clearer. And if Vivek just gives him an offer, makes him an offer, I bet part of him will say, "How the hell with this? Let me get out of this." And I think that's a possibility. I think it's less of a possibility than it was a month ago for me, but I still think it's a possibility.
One quick thing, and back to the money. So you got to remember it like this, and everyone's looking at it as Fisher is spending his money. He's not spending it, right? That family has $1 billion in several different LLCs, businesses, etc. They're not looking at it as spending, right? And how much that might be cash laying around, who knows? Whatever it is going to be, in order for them to liquidate to pay for it, they're gonna figure out the cheapest way to do it. That's why he brought the family in. All they're looking at it as is we are no longer going to have ABC LLC, and we're going to transfer this money to that. So they're not looking at it as spending. It is just simply a transfer of funds. And that's how they are looking at it. And if they see a potential return of investment that's stronger in that business, what I mean, the stadium versus another business, they're going to go after it. This is just a business transaction for them. They can care less about the baseball side of things.
Oh, that much I could tell you. That they've never cared about the baseball side of it, and that's one of the things that's been so frustrating. But what has not been frustrating is that you and I finally did a crossover here.
Yeah, thank you.
So absolutely, it was a lot of fun, and everyone, Locked On MLB fans, check out Locked On A's, and Booney's running the joint right now. Does things a little differently than I do, but do you know why? He's a different person than me. And those of you Locked On A's who liked what I did over the summer, come subscribe to me at Locked On MLB, and I'm still going to be there. I'm not doing 10 a week now. I'm doing 5 a week now. I've decided to bring it down just a little bit. But Booney, tell people where they can follow you.
Locked On A's is the best spot to follow me. If you want to follow my personal account, is Booney, Booney 35. But Locked On A's, LOCKEDONAS.
And you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Walking around the old neighborhood of Locked On A's for a crossover with Booney. This has been Locked On MLB, Locked On A's. He's Booney. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.